1 year ago,
it is just a chaotic morning across much of southern Santa Barbara County.
A heavy storm dumped more than a half inch of rain on the Montecito area in just about 15 minutes.
What I can say right now, what we're experiencing is just devastation.
Hundreds of homes were destroyed or damaged as a debris flow swept through the community in the early morning hours.
We had 4 feet of mud raging through counter high through my house.
Power was wiped out, daylight revealing the extent of the damage.
Everywhere, just debris all over the area.
21 people were killed. 2 others who were swept away were never found.
You just never can't imagine how powerful that mud was, how the rocks coming through. There's 2 trees in our house. Our rooms are gone. Everything's gone, just wiped out.
Amid the tragedy, signs of hope. Crews pulling children, including Lauren Canton, out of the mud alive.
It was pretty amazing that she walked out of it. Other family members, one we're still looking for right now. So just tragic what happened overnight.
Now, 1 year later, the community is still recovering but standing strong.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for this special edition of KSBY News as we mark 1 year since the deadly and devastating Montecito mudslide. I'm Karina Corral.
I'm Richard Gearhart.
And I'm meteorologist Dave Hovde.
We have a full team live in Montecito tonight where a special program and candlelight procession is taking place to honor the 23 people who died. We want to begin with KSBY News anchor Christina Favuzzi to explain what we can expect tonight. Christina?
Good evening, Karina, Richard, and Dave. People are filing in here at Lower Manning Park in Montecito, where this remembrance ceremony is just getting underway. A Chumash blessing just finished, and we'll get into the program shortly. It will start off with a performance by Lauren Canton, who you heard mentioned there at the start of our programming tonight, who was rescued from the mud a year ago. Her brother is still missing, and her father died in the mudslides. We'll also hear from the wife of Loring Taylor, this woman, also the mother of Panette Sutetepa. Both those men died in the mudslide, and her granddaughter, 2-year-old Lydia Sutetepa, is still missing. The program will then walk down to All Saints by the Sea. We're going to take a listen in now.
So the event is starting with the Chumash blessing and song by
I know that
Marcus
some people
Lopez.
in the back are having trouble hearing. If
As
you can
see,
hear me in the
it's
back,
a
can you wave your
field
hands?
there,
Can you hear
and they're
back
testing
okay?
the microphone right now. That was the Chumash elder of Montecito and Son, Little Spanish Town. Continued music by Peter Melnick, and this will go on until the program starts. Looks like they're about to get started. We'll go ahead and listen in.
Superintendent of the Montecito Union School District, which is right across the street. The hosting committee hopes that this event will be a night of healing, hope, and light. I want to encourage each one of us here to be brave enough to both give support to others and receive support tonight, because Montecito is at its strongest when we all stand together. This event is intended for everyone here tonight, for all of us who were touched and affected by the Thomas Fire and the January 9 debris flow in a wide variety of ways. And by joining together as a community tonight and creating the space to honor our collective experiences, we will continue to heal our community. Like the grasses and bushes that continue to flourish and root on the hills above us, may tonight strengthen our community roots and give us the opportunity to both look back and remember and look forward and hope. The hosting committee that is putting on this event is made up of your friends and neighbors. Our planning committee's meetings were filled with and supported by educators from public and private schools and colleges, faith leaders, leaders of civic organizations, first and second responders, county, state, and national government workers, local businesses, and other organizations and people who love and care about Montecito, its people, and the wider community. And in addition, more than 100 volunteers and support staff are here to give all of us the best event possible tonight. I want to call your attention to 3 different types of volunteers tonight. If you have a safety concern or question, please look for someone in a green vest. If you feel you need some particular compassion and wellness support, please look for someone in a blue vest. If you have any other questions or needs, either go to the information booth or look for someone in an orange vest. Again, that's green for safety, blue for compassion, and orange for everything else. You got that? Because there's going to be a test later. Okay, I want to make sure that we all have access to the digital program of events and some other important details. So if you have a cell phone, can you pull it out just for a second, please? Okay, so go to your texting function and start a text with the following number. Are you ready? Okay, start a text with the number 555-888.
What was that number?
That's 555-888. And text the following using all capital letters. Text the word South in all caps, S-O-U-T-H, type a space, and then text the letters SBC, all in caps. Press send, and in return, you'll receive a link that links you to the program and other important materials for tonight. All right, one more time, and help your neighbors, right? This is about supporting each other in the community. Text the number is 555-888. Yeah, say it again, 555-888, and then text the following in the text message. The word South, all in caps, a space, and then SBC in caps, and then press send. Give me a thumbs up if it worked. All right, it worked. If you're still confused, ask your neighbor.
Okay. And don't worry, if you don't get on the website, we'll carry y'all. Don't worry about it. I'm the Reverend Amy Iyer-Delavet. I'm the rector at All Saints by the Sea, just down the road, and I'm going to tell you about the plan for the evening. Our program tonight is simple: a song, a candle lighting ceremony, a poem, children singing, a blessing, and a walk. Thank you to all of you who have graciously agreed to be a part of this program tonight. During the candle lighting ceremony, we will illuminate 4 candles: the light of hope, peace, memories. I'm sorry, let me start again. It's written, but the light of love, peace, memories, and hope. And after each candle is lit, we will raise our voices together in a refrain of hope, saying, "We raise our light," after which we'll hold a moment of silence. Following our program, we walk, and our walk travels down San Ysidro Road to All Saints. Traffic control is in place. Our procession of light is led by 6 heads of school of our local schools and their students as a symbol of our youth leading us into our future. Our walk traces the dark path of the debris flows, death, and destruction, but even more the path that so many took to find sanctuary and safety a year ago today. Our candlelight procession will flood the path of darkness with the light of hope and healing, reminding us that light and life are always stronger than death and destruction. Once the procession arrives at All Saints, a bell will be rung 23 times in honor of those who we lost a year ago today. And then you are invited to share the warmth of a cup of soup and community with one another, to share your light with one another. Volunteers will be on hand at All Saints with that same colorful code, and there will be an information booth if you have any questions. You can find quiet in the church until 8 p.m., at which point music will begin. A little bit about logistics. For those of you who do not wish to join the walk or the gathering at All Saints, shuttles will leave following the program. Shuttles will leave from the parking lot at Montecito Union right across the street. For those of you who are not able to make the walk to All Saints but would like to join the gathering, shuttles will leave from Manning Park parking lot right behind us for those who are not able to make the walk. And finally, shuttles will be running from All Saints until 9 p.m. tonight to take people back to the parking lots and Upper Village where you parked. Thank you for being here tonight to share the warmth and light of community with one another. Let us begin.
Hello, my name is Brian McWilliams, and I've had the privilege of knowing the Canton family through Santa Barbara Middle School. I was one of the teachers for Jack and for Lauren Canton, and I'll be introducing Lauren Canton to sing for us Amazing Grace tonight. I think as a teacher and as an educator, as a parent, I think we all start believing that we're going to be the fountain of knowledge. We're going to teach our kids and our students about life, everything there is to know about the world. And we soon discover that it's our kids that teach us, our students that teach us the most important lessons. And those are lessons about our capacity to love and about how the power of love endures. They teach us lessons about hope and about promise. Lauren Canton has taught me about courage and beauty. She's taught me about grace and grit. And I think she's taught us all that, yes, magic and miracles still do happen. It's my honor and just great privilege to introduce to you my student, my friend, and my teacher, and one of our Montecito miracles, Lauren Canton.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, and now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares that have already come, 'twas grace that brought us here thus far. And grace will lead us home. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound 'twas blind, but now I see. 'Twas blind, but now I see.
The first candle we light is to remember those whom we have loved and lost. We pause to remember their names, their faces, their voices, and above all, the love that binds them to us in this season and always. We remember especially those who were lost in the Thomas Fire, the 1/9 debris flow and its aftermath, and those who we lost a year ago today, whose names we remember now.
David Canton, Jack Canton, Peter Flora, Josie Gower, John McManigal, Jim Mitchell, Alice Mitchell, Caroline Montgomery, Mark Montgomery, Rebecca Riskin, and Roy Roeder.
We remember Jonathan Benitez, Fabiola Calderon, Kaylee Benitez, Marilyn Ramos, Joseph Blackwell, Martin Cabrera Munoz, Morgan Christine Corey, Sawyer Corey, Pasta Suditepa, Pinit Suditepa, Lydia Suditepa, and Richard Loring Taylor.
We light the candle of love. May eternal love surround them. We raise our light.
The second candle we light for peace. We can find it.
Not yet. Thanks, Mom. People in this community have experienced incredible loss this year. They've lost family members. They've lost friends. They've lost neighbors, pets, homes, businesses, and jobs. Our lives have been disrupted by loss and by grief and by sorrow. But we know that our lives are not defined by the challenges that we face, but rather by the way that we rise up to meet those challenges. The spirit of friendship and compassion and love that this community has shown during these challenging times has inspired us all and has given us reason for hope. Tonight, it is our hope that love and light and friendship and community will bring a little light to where there is darkness and bring some comfort and peace to everyone who's hurting out there.
We light this candle for peace.
May this light bring some comfort to us all. We raise our light. Did you get it? It's okay. We got this one.
The third candle we light is to honor our memories. We pause to reflect on the light and dark of these past weeks, months, year. And through the poignancy of reminiscing, we gather hope for memories yet to be made.
We light the candle of memories. May we remember that light defeats darkness.
We pause just as we are, even when the pain overwhelms us or the burden is too heavy. And we turn to the one who is sustaining, loving, and present. We are not alone.
We light the candle of hope. May light show us the way as we walk into our future with hope.
We raise our light.
My name's Carrie Baker Corey. I grew up in Montecito and raised my children here. I've always felt blessed. I've always felt safe. On the morning of January 9th, 2018, my 3 daughters and I were sleeping in our home. Our house was washed away with us inside. My daughter Summer and I were miraculously found and rescued. We both sustained life-threatening injuries. Summer's twin sister Sawyer, age 12, and big sister Morgan, age 25, died in this tragedy. We are broken beyond words. I'd like to read you a poem written by Sawyer about a month before the Thomas Fire started. To Be a Fire by Sawyer Corey. She has never thought about being something else, but now she dreams of being a fire, warming the cold, lighting up the night. To be so close yet so far from everyone and still making them happy. Her ashes burn and float into the endless night like a balloon when you let it go. She dances, wild and alive, crackling as she moves. She is practically part of the sun, part of survival, part of life. Bright and hopeful, she burns forever, even when you put her out.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Alzina. I'm the Superintendent Principal of Cold Springs School District. At this time, I would like to introduce the Montecito Children's Choir, consisting of students from Montecito Union School, Laguna Blanca School, Crane Country Day School, Mount Carmel, and Cold Springs School. The students were going to be singing This Little Light of Mine. So much symbolism behind that song as it gave many strength and love during the civil rights movement. I can't think of a better song for our students to sing. After our students sing, Suzanne Grimacy from the wellness team will be reading a poem before all of our students then follow all of the heads of schools and lead us down to All Saints by the Sea. At that time, we invite you all to join us and raise your light as we come together in love and unity. At this time, the Montecito Children's Choir.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Grimacy. I work with the County of Santa Barbara, the Department of Behavioral Wellness, and with the Community Wellness team. I've been asked to read a poem this evening by Jan Richardson from The Cure for Sorrow. The poem is titled, Blessing for the Longest Night. All throughout these months, as the shadows have lengthened, this blessing has been gathered itself, making ready, preparing for this night. It has practiced walking in the dark, traveling with its eyes closed, feeling its way by memory, by touch, by the pull of the moon, even as it wanes. So believe me when I tell you this blessing will reach you, even if you have not light enough to read it, it will find you, even though you cannot see it coming. You will know the moment of its arriving by your release of the breath you have held so long, a loosening of the clenching in your hands, of the clutch around your heart, a thinning of the darkness that has drawn itself around you. This blessing does not mean to take away or to take the night away, but it knows its hidden roads, knows the resting spots along the path, knows what it means to travel in the company of a friend. So when this blessing comes, take its hand, get up, set out on the road you cannot see. This is the night when you can trust that any direction you go, you will be walking toward the dawn. I now invite everyone to begin our walk together. Thank you.
The procession of light will begin shortly, but wow, what a powerful event we just saw, starting with Lauren Canton and her singing of Amazing Grace, coupled with the images of her being pulled from the rubble. That was emotional, those lyrics ringing true, seeing those images.
And just to know what they've gone through for the past year and to be strong enough to stand up in front of everybody else.
And to hear her teacher talk about how she is teaching the lesson now, it was amazing. And the children's choir was very, very moving.
And that's why I love that they're letting the kids lead the way tonight for this procession of light. We're going to toss it over now to KSBY News anchor Christina Favuzzi. She's going to tell us more about this procession and what we can expect along the way. Christina?
What a powerful evening here at Lower Manning Park in Montecito. The first part of this remembrance ceremony, you can see the procession happening around me now as everyone makes their way down San Ysidro Road to All Saints by the Sea, where that bell ringing ceremony will take place. And tonight, as we honor the lives lost and look back at the toll taken on the South Coast community after last year's devastating debris flow, we want to take a look back at how it all transpired. It was a story of fire, then floods that forever changed the landscape and character of Montecito.
A wildfire some 40 miles away near Santa Paula began its march on December 4th, 2017. The Thomas Fire would go on to burn more than 281,000 acres, torching hills and homes across northern Ventura and southern Santa Barbara counties. By December 16th, flames made their way into the backcountry of Montecito. Containment of the Thomas Fire wouldn't come until 3 days after the South Coast's greatest tragedy. The hot, dry, and long 2017 fire season was suddenly punctuated by an incoming storm expected in the second week of 2018. Local emergency officials knew the impending January storm could have significant impacts on Montecito. Friday, January 5th, emergency managers urged Montecito residents to spend the weekend preparing to evacuate before the storm arrived early the next week.
So are you aware of the mandatory evacuations?
Yeah. What seems like a dry creek most of the year will now could become a raging river of mud and rocks and tree and debris that's come down from the burn areas.
Get out of here! Go! Oh my God, Mom!
It was 3:30 in the morning, Tuesday, January 9th, when the skies opened up. The National Weather Service says within 5 minutes, over a half-inch of rain poured onto the unstable hillsides above Montecito.
We had 4 feet of mud raging through counter high through my house.
Within 20 minutes, water, mud, trees, rocks, and boulders from the fire-scorched Santa Ynez Mountains came rushing down creeks and streams into Montecito.
It was just like in the middle of a river. You just see water just gushing down the hills. You didn't have nowhere to go. You were literally just stuck.
The sound of a freight train, basically, and the earth was sort of moving. That was about 3:45, and that was when the first water came down the creek.
The flood control district said the mud flow reached up to 25, even 30 feet high, racing down the canyons up to 35 miles per hour. People were also caught in the mud flow, swept down canyons and neighborhoods for miles. Some miraculously survived.
We dug down, found a little baby, and don't know where it came from. But we got it out, got the mud out of its mouth.
But many did not.
Hold on, hold on.
21 bodies were recovered in the hours, days, and weeks following the mudslides.
I'm so sorry.
Hayden Gower searched for his mother, Josie.
I should have just told her to leave.
His mother's body was recovered hours later.
You just don't even think that this was possible.
A year later, then 17-year-old Jack Canton and 2-year-old Lydia Sutatapa are still missing. First responders from across the state and nation poured into the South Coast to help Montecito dig out from the unfathomable destruction. A 30-mile stretch of Highway 101 between Santa Barbara and Ventura was shut down, covered in mud and debris. Drivers were rerouted for weeks. After a Herculean effort by Caltrans crews, Highway 101 was clear of mud and reopened on January 21st. Meanwhile, the town of Montecito was just beginning the harrowing recovery process. As grieving continued, local leaders looked back at the sequence of events, searching for ways to better prepare the community if such a disaster were to occur again. Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Services and local law enforcement developed new evacuation plans and urged everyone to sign up for emergency alerts through awareandprepare.org. 1 year later, cleanup is ongoing. Despite it all, this community has never given up, now honoring the ones they lost and committing to rebuilding their quaint town that no matter what will always be home.
And as you can see, the procession is happening behind me. People are making their way up onto San Ysidro Road, walking about a mile down to All Saints by the Sea Church, where that bell ringing ceremony will happen. They'll ring the bell once for each of the 23 lives lost last year. There'll also be a soup reception, and people will be able to take some time in the church to just be silent and reflect on what happened here a year ago. I've spoken to some people tonight, and I have to tell you, the feeling is emotional but light. People are so proud to be part of this community, and the community, Montecito Strong, it's never rung more true than it does tonight. Karina and Richard, back to you.
Absolutely, and it's a time of healing for all. Thank you for that, Christina. We do want to let people know that in about 10 or 15 minutes, the ringing of the bells will begin, and we do have a team there. We'll bring that to you live when that happens.
Fabiola Ramirez was out there that morning, and she has now returned to help mark this year-long anniversary. We want to check in with Fabiola, who spoke to homeowners about that rebuilding process going on. Fabi?
Hey, Richard. Yeah,
spoken to so many people. I've been here for about 2 hours now, and I've came across so many people that I met that morning. I want to talk about the Farrell family who I met that morning. They were rescued about an hour after I was rescued, and when the mom hugged me, one of the things that she said was, "When you hugged me," she said, "I realized that I wasn't dead." And I think that's one of the stories and all of those families that are here today. I just was with the Farrell family at the front of all of this, and I was talking to them, and she was just crying, not only because of everything that they've been through, not only also because of all the people that they've lost and everyone, their home and their friends, but also because of how much it's taken to heal. She says it's not an easy process, but she says she's thankful that they are alive. And I did talk to also the Reverend, who says this is sort of that healing process, and it's not going to take a couple months. It's not going to be just 1 year. It's going to be a long process, and everyone right now is walking the procession down to the church. And here's something that the Reverend said a little while ago to me. And it sounds like we don't have that sound bite from her, but the Reverend basically was telling me that it's a process of healing. It's not going to take 1 day, it's not going to take 1 year, it's going to take time. But the thing that is important is when the community comes together the way it did today, and that's something that is very, very meaningful. I also just heard from the family, the Benitez family. As many of you have remembered, the Benitez family is a family where they lost Fabiola and Jonathan. The husband wasn't hospitalized, he is recovered, and I heard about the little boy as well, who've also seen pictures of him, who he is standing and walking again. And those are just the stories we want to share with you, the families that are here tonight, being supported by all the community members and just going ahead. And it sounds like we have that interview with the Reverend and something very special that she shared with me.
The healing will continue beyond tonight. The trauma that impacted this community won't be healed in a year, but over a series of years. But we have learned as a community that we are strong, and that we are stronger when we come together.
And as you said, they're a stronger community when we come together. And what we've seen here was so powerful. So many people coming together to support not only the families who lost someone, but also all of those survivors who lived just a tragic event that morning, who now don't even have a place. The Farrell family, for example, they say they've moved about 6 different times trying to find a place that they can call home. And yesterday they took me inside what's left of their home, and it was so touching to see, you know, family pictures full of mud still to this day. He said as it becomes easier and easier each day to come back, they're hoping that hopefully within the next 6 months or a year that they'll be able to return to their home once again. Karina and Richard, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Fabiola, thank you so much for that. 21 people were killed in the mudslides 1 year ago, but till this day, 2 others who were swept away have still never been found.
We have 2-year-old Lydia Sututepa and 17-year-old Jack Canton still missing. A group of volunteers called the Santa Barbara Bucket Brigade has scoured the debris in hopes of finding those 2. We last talked with the group in September about their efforts.
KSBY News' reporter Alexa Bertola is live with an update on that search. Alexa, they're not giving up, are they?
No, Dave, they are not giving up. In fact, the Santa Barbara Bucket Brigade was formed 1 year ago after the mudslides swept through. Their first search day was actually January 28th. I spoke with them just a couple of days ago, and they say that they are not giving up, and they are searching different areas that they haven't searched before.
When you look around, you still see that there's areas to be cleaned up, and there's still some piles in front of people's homes. They're still dealing with insurance, and the fact is, it's only been a year for something that was pretty major in this town.
365 days ago, massive mudslides were unleashed. Homes were ripped from their foundations. 21 people lost their lives.
It's been a long period of time, and it's only been a year.
Ann Burgard is a volunteer with the Santa Barbara Bucket Brigade. Over the past 12 months, she's seen the town's transformation little by little.
You see, greens coming back, and people are landscaping, and things are happening, and yet we're still, as Bucket Brigade and other people are out digging, and a lot of this has to do with the search for the 2 missing children. we still have a couple small pockets that to look at after this rain.
17-year-old John Jack Canton and 2-year-old Lydia Suda Tepa are the center of a search led by the Bucket Brigade. Abe Powell is the head of it all.
And the amount of emotion and experience and activity that's been packed in the last year, it feels like, you know, a decade or a lifetime.
When we interviewed volunteers back in September, they worked in over 85 homes, cleared a 44-acre open space, and they moved over 4 million buckets of dirt. Months later, they're closing in on the final 4,000 to 8,000 square feet, and they're still finding items important to the families.
We found a quilt just behind me on the side of the creek that Jack's mom made for him and his father. It feels so good to be able to give somebody anything after they've lost everything.
And the Bucket Brigade tells me that they plan on resuming search efforts once this wet weather dries up. We're now live and local in Montecito. Alexa Bertola, KSBY News.
All right, Alexa, thank you for that. And the Bucket Brigade is holding a fundraiser this coming Saturday. It's to commemorate the 1-year mark, and it's called Montecito Rising. It begins at 6 p.m. at the Procore Warehouse in Carpinteria. For more information on tickets, you can head to our website, ksby.com/links.
Really so important to support their efforts, what they're doing out there. It's all a volunteer basis to bring some type of closure to these families, and we just wish them.
And just like you mentioned, you know, anything they find is just so precious to those who've lost everything.
Personal investment there too.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to check in now with KSBY News reporter Melissa Newman. She is also along the route there, Procession of Light. Melissa?
Karina, you know, I caught up with some CHP officers that were really pivotal in helping rescue some people here in Montecito. But in fact, at one point, they almost needed rescuing themselves. In this dash camera video you're about to see, you can see as their patrol car gets swept up by the debris flow. The video was so dramatic, they tell me they were actually afraid to tell their parents that it was them inside of the car. Now, 1 year later, they say they are still very ecstatic to be helping out the Santa Barbara community. Aside from a few scrapes on the outside, you might not be able to tell what this patrol car and the officers inside survived the night of the Montecito mudslide.
Right here we noticed the glow up to the left, and we pulled over and we were just looking at it, and that's when we called for dispatch to figure out what was going on. So once they came back, we just made the short trip up here and exited at Olive Mill.
Once officers started driving down Olive Mill Road, they could tell something was wrong.
I noticed that the road looked different. It like something wasn't right about the road, just how it looked. So I tried telling him, I was like, hey, slow down, like he didn't know, and then all of a sudden it just hit us.
Mud and debris quickly overtook the car, forcing it to lose traction.
At that point it was kind of reverted to instinct. We did a lot of emergency vehicle training in the academy, so we did that a lot. So I feel like the instincts there really kicked in.
I grabbed the mic and tried to talk to our dispatch and let them know what was going on, but apparently it wasn't as clear as I thought it was. Trying to just say, hey, we're in a mudslide right now. We're floating down Olive Mill. You know, I don't know what to do. Kind of, but more panicked, I guess.
Eventually, their message was able to get across once they parked outside of the Montecito Inn on Coast Village Road.
9201, there's a very active mudslide coming down Olive Mill towards the 101. You were able to barely escape, but it's almost to the freeway.
It was mostly visible up to right here. You can see, we were able to actually see where the mud line kind of went up. And the first thing we did was we actually just did a 360 of the car, make sure the car was okay, in case we need to, you know, go again.
Officers Clotworthy and Fabila say they returned to work continuing on almost 24 hours after their shift started before briefly getting to go home. Now 1 year later, the men say while it was scary at the time, they'd put themselves in danger again to help the community they love.
Last year's gone by quick. lot of healing has gone on in the community, but there's still a lot more to do. And it's a scar in the face of an otherwise thriving and awesome community.
Being in the mudslide, you kind of get the same emotions that people who actually live out here as well. So for me, it doesn't really change too much. I still try to come out here and do what I can for the people in Santa Barbara. So it's, for us, business as usual.
Now, when I was at the Montecito Inn last week, they actually told me that these officers helped save the lives of some of their hotel guests, just showing the many facets of the EMS community that helped save Montecito during such a dark time. Live in Montecito, Melissa Newman, KSBY News.
Lucky to be alive doesn't even cover it for them. I mean, that patrol car saved their lives while they were stuck in that flow.
And to go through that and then just jump right back into service, working for an additional 24 hours.
And as she said, those officers, they really all went right back to work. We have a stat that first responders made 1,200 rescues in the first 12 hours after the mudslides.
I'm sure no one even thought about taking a break. I mean, it was just incredible. And to just have to overcome and navigate around what was happening there at those moments and keep a clear head, it's incredible to hear these stories, even a year later, that people are still processing this. It's incredible.
We heard that.
So many memories back too, just from sitting here, while it all unfolded. So.
Like the story from the helicopter crew that kept going and going. The cockpit lost all communication. They kept going and going because they were plucking people off rooftops to save. Finally, when there was a fire in the chopper, that's when they finally had to land it. But I mean, they weren't about to give up.
Yeah, and I mean, it was mission after mission. And keep in mind, at that moment, they had no idea how bad it was. They knew it was bad. They had no idea that it was like this. And so I wonder what their emotions are like with, going through the, observations today. Really interesting.
And a plaque was actually dedicated to the victims of the Thomas Fire and the Montecito debris flow back in September. It was actually unveiled at the corner of San Ysidro and East Valley Roads. Reverend Amy Iyer-Delavet from All Saints by the Sea Church was there to share her experience. She and the church are playing a major role in tonight's event. The church was also an important spot immediately after the mudslides. It was converted into a triage center. The bronze plaque acknowledges first responders, as we were just talking about them, and also community volunteers.
And to remember in their own way what happened to them, how they suffered, how they helped their neighbors, how they contributed to the community betterment over this period of time.
The project was funded by the Montecito Community Foundation and the Montecito Association.
All right, we're going to take a live look now at the All Saints by the Sea Church, where the procession will come to an end and a bell ringing ceremony will be held. The bells will ring for the victims who were killed in the mudslide. You see, this is a static shot now from one of our crews out there from the church. So you see the procession now starting to arrive there at the church.
Led by those school children who were singing earlier and by the heads of the schools in the area. And it was pointed out during that ceremony, marking this one-year anniversary, that they really wanted it to be like this as a sign of the youth leading the community into the future.
And I love that they said, it's the path that they're taking for this procession of light. It is a path where people found a lot of darkness, where death and destruction came upon many people, but it was also a path where many people found sanctuary. You heard Fabi there saying that she found a victim and they hugged, and she said, at that moment I realized I'm still alive, I'm still here. And so they said they wanted to bring this light of procession through that darkness. And I love, yes, that the children are leading this procession.
Christina was saying how they, the feeling among the people who are at this event tonight is more of a lighthearted thing. I mean, it's powerful to go through these images, but trying to have that path forward and symbolically with the lights, and I mean, to see the photography from the event too. This is incredible. We talked so much about how tight-knit this community is, and they show it again and again and again. They've done it 365 days now.
Yeah, and the reverend of that church, also pointed out earlier, while she was speaking at the beginning of that ceremony, that not only was this a path of such darkness and destruction, but it also led many, many, many others to safety, you know, as we just mentioned, that church was set up as a triage center, and so they are just recreating that exact path.
Talking about a light feeling there for
you gotta love kids;
the
they'll always lighten it up.
And that's wonderful. That's the exact reason why they should be leading us into this procession, leading us to the church, and leading us into the future. Really, is what they're doing with their bright smiles and their laughs and their faces right in the camera, which is exactly the kind of feeling people need on a night like this.
And we have KSBY anchor Christina Favuzzi standing by, and she's been down there all weekend and also grew up in that Santa Barbara County area, the South Coast area. So obviously this kind of touched many of us here at the station as well. I was here at the station as this was unraveling. We sent Fabiola down there. We were talking to her, and we just really had no idea what it was going to turn into. But Christina's been standing down there or standing by all evening long watching this procession, and can give us an update as to what's going on there now. Christina?
So Richard, I've been walking with the procession down to All Saints by the Sea to stop here to talk with you guys, and it's really a lighthearted feeling. As you mentioned, I'm hearing people just sharing stories, catching up. You're hearing this Montecito community come together tonight, and they're moving forward and letting the youth lead them into this next step as we continue to remember what happened here a year ago. It's pretty remarkable to think as we're walking down the street now that a year ago it was covered in mud and debris, and it was such a tragic sight. But now there's a different feeling, a lighter feeling that it's time to move forward, to remember what happened, but know that we are stronger now as a community. And as someone who grew up here on the South Coast, it did touch me in a way that I never could have imagined, and I think that all of us feel stronger today and are just taking this time. I'm hearing the bells ringing over at All Saints by the Sea, so we're going to continue walking down there, and maybe we can give you a listen in on the bell ringing ceremony. Richard and Karina, back to you.
And that will conclude the event with the symbolic ringing of the bells there, the 23 times for each of the victims killed in the mudslide. Again, 2 have never been found, 2-year-old Lydia Sutatepa and 17-year-old Jack Canton. Those lights, those candles were lit at the event, and then they walked about a mile down to the church. I was so impressed to see earlier too that that the families of those victims were able to take part in this ceremony, and you know, I've thought oftentimes about just how hard that would be, you know, for the sister of Jack Canton, who's still missing, and her father was also killed in those mudslides, to be able to stand up on stage and sing Amazing Grace was just so touching. Yeah, just hearing Lauren Canton singing that with the coupled with the images of her being pulled from the rubble, singing Amazing Grace, the lyrics really rang true in that moment.
Remember how they started all of this? It was with the organizers saying, if you need help, if you need mental health help, go here. If you need physical help, go there. They're still reaching out with their hands to try to pull things together, and in unity this started, and in unity it ended. And talking about the families being so strong during that event, we heard from Sawyer Baker Corey, we heard from Carrie Baker Corey, the mother who lost 2 daughters in the slide. One daughter survived as well as she did, and then she read a poem by Sawyer Baker Corey, one of the daughters who survived. And for her to even get through that beautiful poem called To Be a Fire, to read that so strong, the way she was able to get through that, it really is a testament to what these folks have been through, and their commitment to get through it, and just how strong they are. And the daughter actually wrote this To Be a Fire poem
weeks before the
Thomas
mudslide,
fire,
and it was about a girl finding her light, and not even darkness can dim that light. And you have to think, you know, those words really rang true for her two sisters who she lost, and one of those girls was her twin.
Yeah. I'm so touched just watching all of these people, and so impressed by the community to, a year later, a year after this happened, for so many people to be marching just in support of one another. It's amazing to see those just pouring by.
And to think that every time it rains down there, all these people again, and you know, I've been talking about in my forecast how we're going to be facing a challenging week ahead. Just think they have to go through this essentially every time something happens, their fears and their concerns. But I think, you know, you have to be buoyed by the fact that they know they will always come together, no matter what the challenges are ahead as everybody continues to heal.
And this scene just shows it. You know, we're just watching person after person after person.
It really was a very strong and emotional event that we saw. We're going to have a recap of that tonight on our news at 10 and 11. For now, we'll leave you with this image.